My name is Gian Power and I'm the founder of TLC. TLC is a collective of 20 of the UK's most inspiring individuals, ordinary people with extraordinary stories who share these powerful stories from the heart with some of the biggest corporate organisations in our city to build empathy and change the way that we deal in teams. So I set up my first business when I was 13. So I was still at school and still studying, and that was back in DVD manufacturing 13 years ago, when I just spotted a niche in the market up in the northeast of England where I'm from. And I ran that for about a year and a half, 2 years before my parents kind of said, settle down, do your GCSEs. So that entrepreneurial flair, I feel like it was instilled in me from a young age. That also came from the fact that my dad never worked for anybody. He always worked for himself. So as a key role model growing up, that was what was normal. And one thing he did always say to me certain times was, son, build your own empire before you help others build theirs. Not saying that we shouldn't support people along the way, but do what I want to do and to really think about what my passion is. I hope follow in his footsteps. It's an interesting question, and I remember once I was on a plane, so going back to Newcastle. People who know me know that I get my energy from people. I don't read a lot of books. I like to learn by doing. And I was reading a book once and it was like, what's your passion? What's your purpose? And I was like, I don't actually know. And it got to the bottom of the page and it said, go back to the top of the page, think about it again. And obviously you keep going to the top of the page. I started thinking and thinking, and my passion is really to help other people feel more welcomed at work. We spend 3/4 of our lives at work. And I want people to feel that they can be themselves, feel that they can be their authentic self at work. When I meet people, I'm completely myself. Whoever I meet, I like to just get on an emotional level with people. That's how I was when I was working in the corporate world, and I want more people to feel that they can do that. So that's one of, I suppose, my passions, is being around people and making a change to the way that they work. TLC, as mentioned, it's a collective of 20 of the most inspiring people in the UK. Now, these are ordinary people. So they might be a lawyer by day, an accountant, a cleaner, whoever they are, they've got a story to share and a story that needs to be told. And what we do is, I've brought these people together known as Lions. So my middle name is Singh, that translates as lion. And, lions are courageous, and that's what these people are. I wanted to disrupt this motivational speaking scene in London. For far too long, speakers have come in, done their piece and gone. Hasn't moved the dial, hasn't always made a change, and it might have left an impact for that day, but not beyond. And I truly believe that through personal, emotional stories, that's how we can make a change. So these Lions going to corporates, we often sit with corporates and think about, what events have you got coming up, or what challenges are you facing? Is that from people from ethnic backgrounds? Is it women in business? Is it more of a general resilience point? Whatever it is, we bring the right Lion in to ignite that emotion. And all the talks are very much tailored. So the personal story is there, but the messages landed are really tailored to that, to really hit home on that challenge that corporate's facing. So we're now working with companies, including Sony Pictures, Rothschild, RPC, among others, and most recently we've got 9 Lions going into Lloyd's of London. In the first instance, I was searching. I was actively looking for these people, from the Pride of Britain Awards in the UK to speaking to people in my network, because the Lions that I have on board are quite often not people all over Google. They are quite private individuals that feel that coming into this community, it's a safe environment to share their story. Because I myself would only share things if I feel it's going to impact people. So I've then started finding them through private networks, I think mostly. People say, Gian, you must meet this person, or my friend or my cousin who's experienced this and can now share this. Most of our Lions do have a corporate background, because not all, but I think it's important. Because if we want to relate to an audience, then you've got to have lived it, felt it, and been in that environment. Going forward now, I've met over 70 potential Lions. There are only 20 on board for a reason, because they've got to align with the brand, the values, the vision, and my purpose. So that's where we are right now. I guess where this came from is, firstly, spending time in a corporate environment, where a lot of people would come to work, suits, ties, corporate dresses, whatever you want to say, and almost sometimes conforming to be somebody losing these emotions. You know, people are working harder, sleeping less to be these kind of Superman or woman, whatever it is. But instead, I realised that when people open up and everybody's got a heart in there, why are we not sharing more? The power of stories is so impactful. And as I said, seeing different speakers throughout my years on the corporate side, I was like, this needs to change. One, seeing how much people were paying for these speakers, and then also seeing the lack of impact, in my opinion, that was being left to go forward. I was in the corporate world, and then in 2015, changes happened in my own life that made me, I suppose, really reassess my purpose, my priorities, my drive in life. And that in 2015, my father was murdered overseas, which completely rocked my life, turned it upside down, and I guess look at myself and others in a different light. Whether that was in my personal life or in my work life, I took people for who they were. Yeah, so what I started to find is coming back after 3 months out of work, suddenly leaders, partners, directors at the firm at PwC were coming out, supporting me. But notably two in particular, two directors who went out of their way to help me. One was an introvert, one an extrovert, but it didn't matter. They actually came out and helped me. And in doing so, I noticed that, I wanted to work harder for them. Or should I say I wanted to work with them, not for them. That's how it felt. I thought, wouldn't it be great if more people shared how they felt? And I feel that everybody's got their own challenges, personal challenges, work challenges, and one affects the other. And wouldn't it be great if we talked more? So I thought, well, how am I going to do this? I can't just stomp in and say, everybody start talking. It's not going to happen. But I really felt that if we can get other people to share their stories in quite an impactful way, hopefully it will encourage others in an environment to share their stories too. So that's exactly what we've started doing with our Lions. Our Lions go in, they're very personable, very nice people, as you'd hope, talking to a room, and people start opening up. It's amazing. Even clients who've opened up to me about family issues, work issues, discrimination that they've faced in the past. And it's one thing firing out buzzwords like discrimination, diversity, inclusion. Great, the awareness is there, but then it's about the action. And I feel that we can only get action by building empathy, and I can only build empathy by listening to stories. Because you hear somebody's story, whether that's this morning, a female in the insurance industry talking about her own discrimination and, harassment in the workplace. It's only then, especially as a guy, that you can be like, oh, wow. It's one thing reading about it in the paper, but when you hear it firsthand, you're like, that could be my sister, that could be my mum. This behaviour needs to be stamped out. So that's kind of the route that we're going down. The vision. So where am I going with this? From a company point of view, yes, it's generating, the business is moving, but most importantly, it's having an impact. The feedback that we're seeing from our Lions, from our clients, and most importantly, the audiences, people are feeling different. We were recently at one of our clients, and after the talk, our Lion finished and everybody clapped, and a few girls came over crying. And one girl in particular, without going to the story, she opened up. She said, I'm going through this at home. Client, nobody had any idea. And I sat and I said to the client, it's exactly that we need. Because now, rather than that girl being at home and being absent, productivity's down, actually let's put a support network around her. She feels that she can come to work and feel supported. That's what it's about. It's not about sadness or pity. It's about people feeling supported. So I think there's two ways that we'd measure impact. One, actually in the room on an event, and then actually on a bigger business scale. So in events, we've sat with our clients and thought, what does success look like for you? And then what does success look like for us? Then how can we measure this? So during every single event that we have, there is a card stuck under chairs. And afterwards, when this emotion I feel is really ignited in the audience, when they're really feeling it, whatever that might be, we ask them to fill this in. I don't want to call it a feedback form because it's so much more than that. It's almost an emotional barometer or whatever it is. And it asks them just 4 questions, 1 to 10 scale. And most importantly, I always ask them the question, put a word, how do you feel? Because that I feel is the most impactful. And even last week, reading some of the words from relaxed, content, inspired, motivated, so many different words that you just wouldn't ever expect even. And then we sit down with our clients and we like to assess them. Because it's not enough just to have the talk, it's the so what, now what are we going to do now? We can have the talk, let's engage the audience, and where are we going? And what we do is then we work with our clients to think that was just the start, we've ignited it, we can hopefully try and be the catalyst for this, but now what? What are you going to put in place? Whether that we then support, on the volunteering side of things, linking up with charities, because I'm a strong believer in not just another mentoring program. Those things are great, but we need more. So that's how we're measuring impact in the room. And then we have the data and we assess that. Then I suppose the wider piece about us as a business, as TLC, how are we measuring what we're doing? Well, one key metric is, you could say, the number of clients that we're having on board, and importantly, the amount of repeat business, repeat clients. They clearly, we hope, see the value in what we're doing. We see that it's not just about understanding before the event, during the event, but also that piece after the event. And then let's work with them going forward. So that's a key metric for us. If people want to continue working with us, which I hope they do and they will, that's success for us. And also the comments that we get from individuals in the audience coming directly to us or our clients saying, my word, XYZ person came forward because of you, or your line inspired us to go and do this. That for me is what success looks like. And even if, it's one person a year, hopefully it's a lot more than that we can impact, then it's almost jobs being done. It's one on the repeat business side of things, but also the emotional side of things. Are we actually having that impact that we wanted? And moving the dial to create more inclusive emotional leaders and workforces. I think one of the challenges in this field is that there's a lot of talk, but then the challenge is measurement. What are companies actually doing? And it's not enough just to put another mentoring scheme in place or to tick a box to say that they have a BAME community network. It's got to be more than that. It is really being with companies and getting them to understand that we need to move this into action, that it's not just about talking. I've learned a lot more about myself, how I like to work, what makes me tick, which all of my decisions now, it sounds really odd, but if I'm going to make quite a big decision about the business, I always do it financially, being an accountant by background. But then it sounds a bit nuts, but I go to the gym a lot, but then I'll go into the sauna, right? Why? Because my phone has to go in my locker and I just sit and I follow my gut and I just make a decision. And I say that because that's one of the things I've learned. I've learned how to make quick decisions that I feel right. They may not be right, but at the time they feel right, then there's no regrets. And I think doing the financials, so I've done that. There's no better thinker I feel than my gut. Because if it feels right, do it. If it doesn't feel right, don't do it. And that's then gone into the people that I work with. As with anything, with clients, with suppliers, with my Lions, with whoever's coming on board in the team as well, you've got to get that good gut feeling about someone, and then you can work together. And I like people that want to enjoy life. Life's for living. I don't know whether I'm going to live till tomorrow, for another 10 years, 50 years. I genuinely think like that. That's why when people say, where's your long-term vision? I do struggle sometimes. I've got the vision, but it's like, I don't know whether I might not make it. I hope I do. And also a third thing, away from the business side, just learning more about me. How do I enjoy my life? Every month I go away for 2 days out of the country, and it sounds a bit odd again, but I have 5 questions and I ask myself the same 5 questions every month. They go over things like, how happy am I in myself? How happy I am with the business? What am I going to do coming back to the UK to be happier or to propel the businesses further? And I just make a little note. I rank them out of 10. Let's just take a stop and I look through all my months that I've been away, and it's hit like I've been to Milan, Berlin, Hong Kong, Toulouse, all these different countries, which one I love to reflect on. I've been so fortunate to travel so far, but importantly, how my happiness, I hope, is going like that, but only because I've stopped in this hectic city to just stop and reflect. It really is being around people. That's what makes me enjoy my life. I like getting rich through culture, rich through meeting other people, getting different perspectives. That really does drive me. Another key driver for me, I'll be honest, I don't know how this fits in. It's other cultures, it's other countries, because there's something about this world that just intrigues me. There's so many different places in this world that I haven't yet discovered, but I hope one day I can. And that's a driver behind me, to build a business that will allow me that lifestyle later. I'm not talking about a lavish lifestyle, I'm talking about a lifestyle that allows me the opportunity to travel, to see these people. I think absolutely yes. And I think as much as I might be running around, my God, I'm so lucky. That drive is there. All those meetings are to drive the business forward, to speak to prospective clients, to speak to existing former colleagues, and at the same time I'm happy in doing so because I like being with them. I do think it's important to stop, however, so that drive, but I think moments of stopping, I meditate. These little things, they make me happy. Without going into it too deeply, I know that post 2015 and losing my dad, there is always going to be this hole that I'd never really lost anybody close to me before, but you learn to live with it. That's always going to be there. Some days bigger than other it might feel. So what I've got to do is I feel like I've got to, as much as possible, fill that hole with other things that make me happy. And I have a wheel of life that with my life coach at the moment that goes through relationships or family, work, all these different aspects. We rank them and we try to expand them to get the wheel to be as big as possible. Because that, for me, the bigger the wheel, the more I can fill that hole in my dad's place. Yeah, things like travel. They give me a buzz that nothing else can give me. No matter how driven, none of that stuff, that helps me. So yeah, I think to summarize that, you can be driven and you can be happy, but it's important to take stops out in all of that drive to assess, am I happy? What makes me happy and how can I be happier? Because otherwise you can get too carried away without taking a pause. Firstly, seeing my dad, my old man, kind of worked a lot. I was very fortunate to travel the world with him. We traveled a lot, but I saw him being very, very busy. I thought sometimes, as much as I love that, I need to make sure that he always wanted me to learn from his mistakes, and I will continue to do so. So I wanted to make sure that I don't become that, I hate the word busy anyway, really, really hate it. I don't want to be that consumed in everything. What I'm doing in the business is important, but it's still important to just take time out for yourself, because if they say we're a human being, I'm not a human doing, I'm here to be, I'm here to live, and enjoy what's around me. So that's one of the things, following my dad's footsteps. And secondly, it was back in 2015 when, I'll never forget, I had the media outside the office, the police outside the offices, clients in there. And one of my colleagues said to me, Gian, go and listen to this. It was a meditation. I was like, what the hell is that? I went into the toilet, just listened to it. And I found it so relaxing, so calming, to the point that I then downloaded an app and it became kind of habitual. That taught me to just take time out. Because if I've got the most stressful day ahead or, back to back, just taking those 10 minutes out just calms you. Before any big meeting or anything, any big negotiation, there's nothing more powerful than just taking 10 minutes to meditate and you're calm. Gandhi said something along the lines of, today my day is twice as busy, so I'll meditate for twice as long. The busier we are, the more important it is to get that balance. And I know every single day that today, right, I might not make it to the gym because it's back to back till 9 o'clock. So last night I didn't care. I was trying to watch the football, and I was in the gym till 10 o'clock, working out. Why? Because I know that I will wake up feeling good. And ultimately, in all of this, why do I do the balance? Because if I don't function, the business won't function. And it's literally as simple as that. So if I don't look after me, there is no business. The first thing I would say is we all work so differently. We all have different things that make us tick and different working styles. I don't actually think that any two people have the same working style because we're all unique. What I would encourage people to do is to speak up. So if you're in a permanent team or like me on projects at PwC, so you're constantly with different teams, it doesn't matter whether you're junior, senior, all of that. This is how I like to work. And if you want the most out of me, then this needs to be respected. So I used to say, for example, in my diary, I'd block out gym. So between 12 and 1 o'clock, most people would know where's Gian, I'm in the gym. I don't care if it looks like I'm gone for an hour, because if you want the best out of me for the other 7 or 17 hours of the day, this is how I need to work. I like having my breakfast and I like having some me time. If I want to go and work outside, that's how I work. I think that comes down to an element of trust that you have to build up first. So what I would say is speak up, be confident enough to say, this is how I like to work. These are my non-negotiables. These are what are in place. Put them in your diary, but make people aware so you're not coming across too brash. That's my key thing, I think. And whatever works for you, if it's going to the gym, if that's you meditate, if it's pray time, whatever it is, or you go for a swim, I don't know. Be you and block it out, put it as private and just tell them. But always being conscious of that, always put it back to what's in it for them. So if you put whatever you're doing there, if you're going to dance class at 11 in the morning, just make sure they understand this is why, because I'm going to be more efficient, more productive, you're going to get more out of me, more delivery for the client. This is why I'm doing it. I hope you understand. And if they don't, then I guess it's worth just sitting back and questioning why don't they? And maybe there's more of a cultural shift, and get in touch. Yeah. Somebody actually the other day was like, Gian, will you do this personality test thing? So I was like, fine, I did it. And it came out 96% extroverted, right? There's 4%. And I am very much extroverted. I'm that person at a networking event. I'll be in the middle. I'll talk to everybody, confident. But equally, I love my own time. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. That's why I go away every month alone. Even if my mates want to join, I'm like, no, or maybe for a day. I just need that time just to stop and to reflect, because in this world of people being around me, that's where I get my energy. Then it's just like, let's just take some time out. And I think being around the right people doesn't happen too often. It's happening less and less, hopefully because I'm making those decisions of who I'm around. Maybe once a month I might find somebody that I'm just don't get on with. As long as people are open-minded, they can see different people's perspectives and thoughts, great, even if we disagree on certain things. But the people who maybe just can't, and there's no reasoning, yes, we can try and educate, but no, it's just not for me. So being around the right people to get the right energy, I think is key for me. On that, my work life, my personal life, my best friend, my best mate, Richard, just hilarious, constant laughter. And that's, we're talking about that happiness, blocking out that big hole. Laughter, for me, is right up there. Laughter in everything that we do, because that, I don't know, just does something good for the soul, right? And then another thing that I do, this is going off a little bit, but, to look after yourself, it was a director called Haley at PwC who taught me this. It's called Shed. So every day I try to look at what I call my shed, or especially if I'm thinking, oh, there's something not right today. Am I tired? I don't know. And that's my sleep, my hydration, my exercise, my diet. Because 99% of the time, if something isn't right, something I haven't slept enough, I haven't drank enough water, my diet hasn't been on point, or I've forgotten to go to the gym today. And once I rectify that, I'm back on form. And it's just a little reminder. It's nothing too complex, but I just think of those 4 things and it just keeps me back going. I've always got this thought in my head that I'm this spontaneous, random person. But then people keep saying, no, Gian, you sound pretty organised and planned. I like my life at planned spontaneity, in that if I go away for a weekend, Sunday is exactly that. I used to, when I used to go away, Sunday was just to get lost. Try and put my phone away and just walk around a city that I've never been to, through all the little, back roads and streets, because you see locals. And it sounds stupid, but don't go to the tourist places, put your phone away and just get lost. And you really, really get to figure out a place and to get into situations, some good, some bad, that you never expected. I did a talk last week, and I'll be honest, it's the first time even now speaking out since 2015, 2016 across the media. And I decided that I'll only speak out if I can impact other people positively. My story, as I call it, it's using emotions as a superpower. They lie within all of us. Everybody's got them. And when people say the word emotions, they think crying. No, it can mean laughter, happiness. It's just how we feel. My message, I suppose, is that exactly what I've been saying and what TLC is about, this is what happened in my life. It shouldn't have to take such an impact, such a murder, let's say, for me to speak up, or for others to reach out and say, hey, how are you doing? Are you good? Because everybody has a story, I believe, that we know nothing about. But we just need to take the time and be willing to listen. Then that will come out. I'm not unique. There's nothing unique. It might be quite extreme, a little bit different what happened. But everybody's got things going on. I've spoken to women who, are struggling to have children, people going through IVF, miscarriages, things like that going in. People are facing their own challenges. And my key message as a liner when I'm speaking is, 1, bringing your full self to work, and using these emotions and not seeing them as a weakness, but seeing them as a power. If you can really embrace them, you can stand out and be different. You'll be a more inclusive leader. People respect you. People want to work harder with you and for you. That's the key message. Seeing emotions as a superpower, not as a weakness. I will always stand up for what I believe in and what I think is right. Even if that means that I walk alone, nothing will ever stop me speaking out and helping other people who I believe need the help and support in their lives. I wish that every child in the world had access to clean water and to food, and importantly then to an education. I'm going to disrupt the motivational speaking scene in London and beyond, to make people more emotionally engaged and to bring a new era of real stories that come from the heart to make people more inclusive leaders in this country and elsewhere in the world.